Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel and to all things language, culture, and travel. My name is Michaela. If you're new here, if you're not, welcome back. Hope you keep coming back. And today I want to talk to you about Morocco. But Michaela, you're always talking about Morocco. I know. But what else can I say? Morocco has literally stolen my heart. The food, the people, the nature, it's just amazing. I just got back and I want to tell you everything you need to know about where to stay, what to eat, and how much money you should bring. Because I know I used to live there. There's a lot of things that I didn't know about traveling as a tourist that I wish I'd known before. There's more travel content to come, so make sure that you hit the subscribe and don't miss that content from me. And if you're headed to Morocco soon, leave me a comment and tell me where you're going, what you want to do there, and I'll tell you if I've ever been there before. And as always, if you found this video helpful, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and without further ado, let's get into it. So let's start with where to stay in Morocco. So we stayed in Riad, we stayed in an Airbnb, and we stayed in a hotel. So we basically checked them all off. So let's start with Riad. So according to theworldpursuit.com, a traditional Moroccan riad is a home with multiple stories that centers around an open-air courtyard that contains a fountain. Riads were once the estates of wealthiest citizens, merchants, and courtiers. The building is in the shape of a rectangle with different rooms on each of the four sides. So I absolutely loved our riad in the middle of the Medina, which is the Arabic word for city. The Medina is usually just the city center. And I have a video of the tour, so I'm just going to go ahead and insert that here. Hey everyone, so I just got to my riad in Marrakech, and I wanted to show you how beautiful it is. So you can find that riad linked in the description below. Khadija and Benjamin were our hosts and they were absolutely amazing and accommodating. Khadija actually came and picked me up from a cafe so that she could show me how to find the riad because it is a little bit hidden in the tiny little winding streets of the Medina. What I absolutely loved the most was the little cozy lounge area that was on the roof. We had beautiful views and it would also be a great place to relax. I did want to mention that breakfast was included in our stay, and we actually booked during the holidays, which may or may not have had an influence on the price, but it was $42 per night. So the second place that we stayed in Marrakech was Hotel Farah, which was outside of the city, and it was actually closer to the airport, which we did purposely because we were leaving from the airport the next day. And if you ask me, it's more geared toward people who are just coming to Marrakech for a vacation. This was more of a laid back, like if you don't feel like leaving the hotel, you have everything you need. There's a pool, a restaurant, and yeah, so that's where we stayed in our last night in Morocco and also our last night in Marrakech. And that hotel cost us probably about $60. We booked it very, very last minute. I don't know whether or not that has an impact on the price, but it was a little bit more on the pricey side and a little bit outside of what I would have probably liked to spend on accommodation in Marrakech. We then went from Marrakech to Essaouira. In Essaouira, we decided to book an Airbnb. I actually wish that we probably would have booked a riad because I just like the traditional type of feel that comes with the riad, but our Airbnb was absolutely stunning and I'm gonna take you on a tour of it right now. Okay, so after about 5-ish hours in a bus, 4 of them actually moving and stopping, I didn't realize that between Marrakech and Essaouira, the bus that we took would stop in like every village along the way. We're finally in Essaouira and I wanted to take you on a mini tour of our little Airbnb. So right in the door, you have the bathroom and a cute little sitting area. Then through here, we have a little kitchen, another little sitting area, and a bedroom. But the best part of this place My favorite thing about that location was the roof, and I went up there first thing in the morning to watch the sunrise as well. It was very, very windy in Essaouira when we were there, but actually there's kind of like a wall that blocks a lot of the wind in that couch area on the roof. Finally, we went to Rabat and we had another Airbnb And it was very nice. It was not too pricey. It was in a good spot in Rabat. However, I do wish we would have stayed a little bit more toward the Medina and the beach. The price of this Airbnb when we booked it was $26 a night, which is extremely affordable. I would actually recommend it. Our host was very accommodating, very nice. Overall, if there's any general advice that I could give about accommodation, I would stay in Riyadh all across Morocco if you can. Airbnbs are nice. You're never gonna find, you know, bad hosts. I don't think anyway. The hotels I think are just a little bit more on the luxury sides. So Morocco is good for all travelers no matter what the budget. Okay. So let's talk about the most important thing, which is the food. So you have to eat traditional Moroccan food when you're in Morocco, like obviously. But I will tell you about some of my favorite ones, and they're all my favorite. But I will also tell you about where we ate them as well. So for breakfast, I highly recommend getting some simmen and some bagrir and some harsha. So these are all kind of like bready type foods. Actually, it's really hard to describe simmen. It's just like a layered, it's bready, but it's layered, but it's light and flaky, and you eat it with honey, or you can eat it with like some goat cheese, or just any spreadable cheese. You can have it with jam, you can have it with Nutella, basically anything. It's really, it's my favorite thing in the world. The second one is harsha, and I don't know how to explain it. It has like the consistency of cornbread, so very, very dense, and you can also eat it, like you can put like honey on it. So I definitely recommend giving it a try. And the last one that I would recommend for breakfast that is like a must try is called a bagrir, and it's basically considered like a Moroccan pancake, but it has like holes in the top, and it's not as like fluffy, it's more kind of like spongy. Again, you eat it with honey, butter. Definitely give it a try. And my favorite thing to do with breakfast is to take a bite of simmen and then sip tea. There's nothing like it. Definitely let me know if you try this. So I couldn't talk about Moroccan food without bringing up couscous. So make sure when you go to Morocco, you not only try couscous, but you try the different kinds of couscous. So you can have couscous with lamb, you can have couscous with chicken, with vegetables. You can have it the sweet couscous, which isn't like sweet, but it has caramelized onions and raisins and chickpeas, and that's called tfeya. So couscous b'tfeya, that's gonna be the sweet kind of couscous. And honestly, just go and try them all. The next one is tagine, and just like couscous, there's so many kinds of tagine. So you can have tagine again with chicken, you can have it with lamb, you can also have it with fish, and you can also have it with like beef, so like kafta. Yeah, basically go and try them all. So the next one is rafisa. Rafisa. If I don't convince you to try any food, you have to try rafisa. It's basically like the simmen I told you earlier, but it's not as thick, and it's like pulled apart into very thin pieces, and that is like the base. And then you have chicken cooked with a broth and different spices, and that goes on top, with also like some lentils, and that goes around it. And when you just bite the simmen piece or the bready piece, I don't really know. My host mom said it's not simmen, but it's like simmen, but I think they're like the same idea. And when you take that and the lentils and the chicken, and I'm hungry. And the next one to try is safa. So sfa or sifa is basically like angel hair, and it's like made into this giant like mound, and a lot of times inside they'll have chicken, and then they put like powdered sugar and cinnamon, and there's also like nuts and raisins, and basically try every single thing. So the best place that we had rafisa and sfa, and really I don't see sfa very often on the menu in Morocco, but we did have it at a place in Rabat called Dar Al Houma, and it was a whole vibe. It was like very like beautiful on the outside. The inside they had a performer, and yeah, the food was really good. Definitely give it a try if you're in Rabat. Dar would be mad at me if I didn't mention pastela, which is his absolute favorite. Again, you can try it with chicken or with fish. So chicken pastela is basically chicken and nuts and spices, and it's wrapped into this very thin I don't want to say dough, but that's the best word that I have for it. And then it's baked, and then on top they put, again, powdered sugar and cinnamon, and it's the perfect mix of sweet and salty. Definitely give pastela a try. So the last two things I'm going to mention are kind of like appetizers, and it's brewat and harira. So I don't have any footage of brewat or harira, but harira is traditional Moroccan soup. It usually has chickpeas, maybe sometimes it has like orzo. It's got a lot of spices, and yeah, you definitely just have to try it. It's very, very common around Morocco. You can pretty much find it on any menu, and it's absolutely delicious. And the brewat are basically little triangles stuffed with meat, sometimes with vegetables, and sometimes with just cheese. Those are my favorite. Definitely Morocco is a heaven for foodies, and just go and try every single thing. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is how much money to bring. So for the how much to bring, I'm not going to tell you, you know, a dollar figure. I'm just going to tell you what to expect in terms of pricing. And I want to break it down for you as far as accommodation, transport, and food. This is of course going to vary from person to person. You know, what's your budget look like, how you plan to travel around the country, how much you plan to eat out versus like if you do get an Airbnb and you decide to cook at your Airbnb. It's really going to depend, but I would say on average we were spending, you know, about $50 a night on accommodation. So I would keep that in mind. Now, when it comes to transportation, I do plan on making an entire video about transportation in Morocco because I feel like a lot of guides and a lot of things that I see are very unrealistic. Morocco is a huge country, so if you only have a short period of time, I don't recommend going from Marrakech to Fez. Unless you're gonna rent a car, but even then it's still like 6 hours. But if you decide to take a train, it's at least 6 hours. So for taxis around Marrakech, it's gonna vary. It's, you know, if you're taking private taxis versus shared taxis, if your taxi drivers are trying to negotiate with you before you get in the taxi, or if you just get into a taxi and you watch the meter, those taxi prices can vary. If you're traveling from one city to another by grand taxi, these are the taxis that take you from city to city, I would say you shouldn't be spending more than 50 dirhams. No, more than 100 dirhams, because I think ours from Marrakech to Essaouira was 100. We shouldn't be spending any more than 100 dirhams on a grand taxi. If you are gonna plan on taking a train, I'm pretty sure my train from Bingadir to Meknès, all the way to Meknès, was about 170 dirhams, so $17. That can take you across the entire, you know, train line, because it goes from Meknès all the way down to Marrakech, and from there you can hit well, you can actually go all the way to Fez. So you can go to Fez, you can go to Meknès, you can go to Rabat, you can go to Casa, and you can go to Marrakech, all along the train line, which means you don't really have to rent a car unless you really want to. Also, you can take the bus. Again, do not recommend unless you take a CTM or a Super Tour. I didn't take either one of these transportation, but our bus was 50 dirhams. I think you can get the CTM for 80. I recommend the CTM and the Super Tours for this reason. They do not stop along the way, so, you know, they're more comfortable and they're a little bit more, but it's worth that comfort. Trust me, believe me, I will talk more about that in the next video. And then you have food. So we ate breakfast every day for roughly 50 dirhams per person. And, you know, it was a decent sized breakfast. We would usually get a drink with it, and then I usually had like msemen. The cafe that I went to, they had like a traditional Moroccan breakfast, and it was huge for only 45 dirhams. And it was msemen, harsha, and then I forget the name of this like soup, kind of. It has like wheat in it. Then we had tea, the bread, orange juice. So, you know, it was a full breakfast for 45 dirhams. And when it comes to lunch and dinner, you know, it can vary, but I would say roughly about $7 per person per meal. And it's usually just the dish. It's like around 70 dirhams, and they usually start around 70 dirhams. So, you know, if that's something they're interested in budgeting for, just look at the menu ahead of time. A lot of times you can find the menu online and you can check out the prices, because there are some places that are a little bit pricier. You can find like couscous for like 130, but I think we had it mostly for like 70, 75, 80. So yeah, just keeping that in mind. Of course, if you do plan on buying a lot of souvenirs, then you're gonna want to bring extra money for that. And of course, you should bring extra money for like street food. And then also just be aware that, especially in Marrakech, if you take pictures or you're hanging around in Jemaa el-Fna, they're gonna ask you for some extra money. And it's always good to have a little bit of extra cash on hand, though, especially in Marrakech. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you stay tuned so you don't miss the transportation realities in Morocco. And don't forget to like and subscribe. So I'll see you next time.